There we go. We're up and alive, sort of. 100% human, though.
Yes, there's no AI here. Not even very good tech.
Not.
This is like an emergency meeting we're having. You know that.
Yes. You know, if it was any more of an emergency, the red foam between the two big superpowers would be smoking hot.
Well, this is a day on a weekend where I think stuff is happening around us, and we may be reacting to it, perhaps with a little more chagrin than otherwise.
Well, I mean, we've spent the last at least 2 years talking about the demise of the country, talking about the demise of politics. Our last episode was dealing with the fact that over the course of a decade, we have absolutely no trust in politicians, news media, anything from the mainstream seems to be so questionable. And we also found that really there's no such thing as an Ozempic drug that's going to fix that overnight.
That's right.
And I guess for me, it was this whole thing that, you know, we have a bridge that was built maybe by 100% Canadian money and mixture of U.S. Steel, Canadian steel. I don't know. But we had our dear leader who decided to tell us that everything was fine. That although that is huge chunks of steel that are falling, the sky really isn't. And you know, it's all sunny and happy, and you know, there's a better day on its way. Until Bloomberg got a hold of a contract that says this guy's been lying out of both sides of his face.
That's the whole point, and it just reinforces our last chat about trust that's evaporated with this leadership, and you know, the hope of some change coming that would lift our spirits on this is not there. And sadly, Bob, I was going to tell you in pre-production, which is very short today, that was one of our most listened to and watched episode we've ever done, which is very, very strange, but perhaps very telling. But what happened with the Bloomberg article just reinforces what we chatted about a week ago, which was you can't keep lying to people, making up stories, and expecting, you know, it to all turn out okay. Someone is going to pull the rug out from under you. And human nature being what it is, as I said, just in a very brief pre-production, if I'm a member of the Liberal caucus or a cabinet member, and my illustrious leader is bringing in somebody I've never even heard of to start running the office of the prime minister, who is a person who is clearly got nothing to do with Canada. But has everything to do with the arch enemy of the guy that you keep poking in the eye all the time, which is Hillary Clinton and the Democrat Party, because she's clearly a well-established figure there. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is fact. And you go around bad-mouthing the guy who today is talking about indirectly through a congressperson of sanctioning you and your family in the United States over the wildfires. Like you gave him an excuse, or you've given all the nut jobs, and they have as many nut jobs running around in politics as we do, to go, you know what? We're going to sanction your money, and we're going to take away your visa to come to the United States. You're talking about the prime minister of your neighbor, of an ally you've had for 100 years, and you've got a congressman from Ohio who's, I think he's off the wall anyway. But the point is, he's getting the attention of Americans because for the last 4 or 5 days, Americans have been given a real dose of anti-Canadianism over this wildfire thing, which of course is an act of God. We had wildfires, and yes, and I can tell you right now, here in southwestern Ontario, it still stinks from the wildfires. But why do you poke the bear on stuff like that? You've been doing this now for 10 years under the idiot king before, and now this guy who like, what are you thinking about? You've got all your money parked in the U.S., or 90-some% of your stuff is in the U.S. Your wife works there. Your kids go to school there or live there, and now you're going to pick a fight with a guy who will play dirty. Doesn't, if you're going to take on someone who is going to play dirty, you better understand what the consequences are. And the rest of us sitting over here in that big pink part on the map don't have anything to do with this, okay? We didn't ask for this fight that you're picking on. And, I don't want to hear the stuff about the tariffs, because that's got nothing to do with what you're doing here, because you're poking this guy in the eye.
Well, I take umbrage with that. I think they've tried over the last decade poking him in the eye. And I think now that they're using the knee to the lower extremity on this guy. And like, I'm sorry, said pre-production, we're playing T-ball. And we're not very good at it. The people to the south of us are into the full-fledged baseball game.
Oh, yeah.
With professionals. And this is not going to end well.
Well, look, I understand. Oh, and I forgot to say that in this sanctioned talk that this guy Marino, who's a congressman from Ohio, he also throws Doug Ford into the mixture. I don't know what kind of assets Doug Ford has parked in the U.S., but I think they're painting him with the same brush, because they're clearly pissed off with what those ads, said last year, and they're seeing it as meddling in the election. And they got the midterms coming up, and they're looking for any excuse. Yeah. And if this is we being the collective we in Canada under Mark Carney and the previous idiot king that ran the place, used the boogeyman of Trump to try to get votes, and it worked. And maybe the Americans are using the boogeyman as Canada about, we can't trust those guys. There's all kinds of stuff. And so maybe they're playing the same game in reverse. Well, now it's coming back to bite us in the backside. But I didn't ask for this. I didn't want to make these people to the south of me my enemy. I didn't want to cozy up to the Chinese. That's the other part. Trump was on TV on Thursday, made it pretty damn clear that he's pissed off. And the American intelligence community has known for a long time that the CPP has been messing about in the U.S. in elections. You remember, they didn't do any of that with the famous 11 MPs in Canada to this day who have never been named, who've been involved in monkey business, shall we say, on the elections. And again, these people are so tone deaf as to think that they can play this game with an adversary who is really, really unpredictable. Okay. Yeah.
And I guess for one step further on that is the great silence from our news sources here in Canada of the 25 global affairs people that have been fired and 11 who quit under suspicion. How much of this is dealing with the Chinese government or the ilk of that nature?
And not naming who these people are.
Yeah.
But I can tell you categorically that if someone asks the folks in the right circles in the U.S., they can name them without any problem.
I'm sure they could.
And again, poking him in, there's the other story that was in the American papers just last week, pointing out that our prime minister likes to use a burner phone, if you like, calling his various leftist pals in Europe, and again poking the bear. Now you can't tell me that either somebody ratted him out, who has a favor that he owes the Trump administration, said through some channels. I keep getting phone calls from Mark Carney on his British phone, basically slagging you, or that the world's biggest intelligence organization isn't following your stupid burner phone and discovering that you're calling X, Y, and Z a leader in the EU and slagging the president.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In which, in any case, you're either being ratted out or they know what you're doing. And now they're looking for an excuse. And this wildfire is the black swan event we might be looking at that goes, you know what? We're done with you because, you're not a trustworthy guy. This is from the other bunch that's 10 times our size and equally untrustworthy, but it doesn't matter. You're dealing with the big leagues here, and you're messing about.
And again, I had mentioned over the course of last week to this week about how we had all kinds of things going on here. The current leader's chief of staff or an aide de camp or whatever you want to call him in the Prime Minister's office has resigned so that he could come out to Vancouver and run in a by-election out here, which is another strange thing. Like, if I was a resident of the area, which I believe is North Vancouver, saw this guy on a ballot, I'm going to say, well, where's home been for you? Apparently it doesn't matter because, our current PM was living in the UK and Ireland, so maybe it really doesn't matter if this guy's never lived in the riding that he wants to run in. But if the people in that particular riding are inane enough to vote him in, basically you're sanctioning everything that's been going on for the last decade in this country. The lies, the poking of the bear next door, cozying up to China, morals that are, well, to say they're loose morals would probably be not a far stretch of the truth. And we've got those people in power now talking about how they're going to get tough on crime, how they're going to stop parent and grandparent immigration coming to Canada. And I'm almost to the point that, we've said it many times, the average memory retention of a goldfish is 7 seconds, which is exactly 6.5 seconds longer than the Canadian voter. It's just unbelievable here that we detest the leader of the Conservative Party because he's too American, and yet on the other side of that, we've got the current leader who is showing that he's just like the American politician, signing things in front of cameras and showing, the big signature on documents.
That was one of the first things he did. I remember that. I go, what are you doing?
And he's going to make America great again by having a great Canada. And then the next breath says that, well, nobody wakes up really thinking about Canada.
But clearly he doesn't. I think he wakes up in the morning and says, how are my Brookfield stocks doing?
Well, I'm sure that's what it is.
But
and again,
can you imagine that, even the hint of something as bizarre as this by this congressman, that we're going to sanction the assets of a sitting Prime Minister of Canada and the assets of a premier of the largest province in Canada, because they have been terrible at husbanding their natural resources. And this fire, which apparently had started 3 weeks ago, and we didn't even know about it till last week. Like, this is the other part that they brought up. What do you mean it's been burning for 2 weeks? What the hell was going on for the 2 weeks before it really went crazy? It is an act of God, for sure. Yet we only have 50 water bombers or 60. Sorry, I correct myself, because I went and checked out how many actual operational water bombers does a country of 40 million people have, where 3/4 of the bloody place is covered by forest, and we have 60 of them. Okay?
Well, we would have had a lot more, but we tend to give a lot more to the Ukraine.
Ugh,
Maybe we should
let's
ask
not
them
even
for
go
all of
there.
that.
But I think this is all starting to metastasize. And it wasn't because we have a curious media in this country, because they're bought off. I mean, the malarkey that goes on at the CBC and even at CTV, so they can get that damn subsidy check from Ottawa. It's really quite disgusting. You know, we have to go on the internet and see citizen journalists who take the time and have the resources, unlike just you and me talking over the fence. But these guys have the ability to do interviews with various people and get to the bottom of certain things, and that's where the truth seems to be lying. As sure as the devil isn't being spoken about on media that is well and truly bought off. They're just so not curious, or they omit stuff. I mean, they play the same game as our American pals to the south have. This divide between the media. Yes, you can if you watch one sector media, they ignore everything that is of any interest to the average American, and you have the other side of the media that is constantly bombing the viewer or the listener with the government thing, the government's position on whatever. So whether it's the Iran situation or the wildfire situation, it doesn't matter. They're very binary there, but it's there because it's politically there. The government of the United States has not bought off Fox to tell everybody everything the government is doing. Okay, CNN and MSNBC and the rest of them, they just hate Trump's guts and go on and make everybody know that they hate his guts, and will either ignore him or make up stuff about him. But in Canada, we don't even have that choice, because our entire legacy media is bought off by the government. We don't have any alternative other than going on the internet or having to listen to people from some other country who has no
skin in the game
to tell us the truth about what is going on in Canada. I mean, if we were some banana republic in Central America and all of a sudden an American shows up and runs the president's office or the prime minister's office, that makes sense because it's bought off. But now I'm trying to figure out, like, what in the hell is this guy thinking about? Does he think that this is not come to the attention of the folks in the White House, that Hillary Clinton's advisor is sitting in the seat of government to the neighbor to the north who we're having this problem with?
The day-to-day running of the Canadian government. Yeah, that's
Can you be any more stupid? I'm sorry, because that is, he might be a brilliant banker, but he's a dumb politician, because this is not how you make friends and influence people.
Well, I think that probably is the whole crux of the matter. He might be a great technocrat, and he's used to doing things in a certain way. Like, if I tell you you're going to spend $900 billion, you're going to spend $900 billion, and don't worry about where it's coming from, because we'll figure that out later. You're forgetting about a basic thing, which is called democracy, that the money that you're spending comes from the Canadian taxpayer. And there must be something in there. We elect people to Parliament to control things, to debate things. And I guess, one of the interesting things I saw is an internet meme. If the government can give all sorts of your money away to other people, it tells me that you're being overtaxed. And, we in Canada have been we've got this stupid thing with the carbon tax, with carbon capture, with carbon this and carbon that, which is not working. As much as we've got huge fires up there in your neck of the woods and in ours, nothing at all to do with fossil fuels or pipelines or anything else. It might have been human started, it might have been lightning started. It really doesn't matter. The fact is that the there is some change going on where we used to be a very, very wet climate, and we're not so much a wet climate anymore. Nothing at all to do with fossil fuels
Yeah,
or
but
the
if you could
change in
tax the climate
altitudes.
to become cooler, they would try and do it.
Well, I'm pretty sure, yeah.
You
But
know,
we're doing our best to do that by taxing the crap out of the Canadian population to change that. But
yeah, I know. But these wildfires, they keep the American media now has picked up on this and is now gone to town. And whether we like it or not, we're the boogeyman for them this time. Okay. And they're getting Canadian derangement syndrome in the U.S. over this. 'Cause I'll just use the analogy they do with Trump up here about Trump derangement syndrome runs everything. I mean, you watch CBC and CTV, and they can't run one day on the news without going after Trump for something that has a Canadian bent to it. Now all
yeah,
of a sudden, what to put it in another way, the boogeyman is turned against us, and we're getting all, I didn't think this was going to come back to bite us in the backside. Well, it is, okay.
yeah.
And so the wildfires that are going on in northwestern Ontario, they're also going on in Minnesota. They're going on in Wisconsin. They're going up
We've got huge fires here in BC, and there's some pretty big fires in Washington State. So
we've had a dry spell. We've had lightning strikes. Things catch on fire. Okay. But this is, last week we were saying something's going to happen and we don't know what it is that's going to set this off. Maybe this is what it is. I mean, maybe it isn't, but it sure strikes me as being a very peculiar kind of reaction by the same knee-jerk types that we have in Canada vis-a-vis the U.S. Now they're turning this around, and it's not hard to convince the dumb and the lame and the blind and the stupid when they go outside their house and it stinks, or it's burning their eyes or making them cough, or they can't go to the ball game because it's been canceled because there's too much junk in the air, to get those damn Canadians. Well, and while it's quite unfair that they're doing this, but we've been unfair too, with all sorts of stuff. So someone pointed out that when the fires were down in California last year, we sent water bombers down to help out and so on, and how quickly that's been forgotten. Well, that's life. I hate to say this, but the 7-second goldfish thing is what it is. And so we're not going to get a whole lot of sympathy from people in New York and Boston, Buffalo, and Cleveland whose eyes are watering from this stuff. That a year ago we sent a couple of water bombers down to help out with the fires in California, only discovered they couldn't use them anyway because there was nowhere to land, because you can't put water bombers into salt water to pick up water because it doesn't work with airplanes. Dumping salt water on fires is just it technically doesn't work for all sorts of reasons. Long and the short of it is, this is boomeranging on us, and they're using precisely the same poke in the eye, but that we've been not we, our proxy, known as the Prime Minister, is the last one and the current one. So now what? The bridge thing is obvious. That the lie has been unearthed. The PMO, this woman who's now the chief operating officer, this is unbelievable and unconscionable, and simply, this is a Trojan horse here, okay? Or as I said the other day, the Manchurian Candidate. Like, what are we doing? If we are some third-rate zero country somewhere in Central America, you could do that there. But we're doing this right under our noses here, okay? And then of course, for this guy to come along and say, well, we didn't notice that. You didn't notice it? Are you kidding me? They noticed it, and if Carney finds out that his millions at the Brookfield are frozen, like his pal froze the truckers' money, there could be some anger there. And I want to know what they're going to say, all the elbows up crowd, if that happens. Not that I want it to particularly happen, but you play funny games, it comes back to bite you. Imagine what your argument is when your assets are frozen in the U.S. or you need a special visa as a prime minister of the country next door, because the lunatics who've lost it, like the lunatics up here who have lost it, okay? Because the same, I don't know what the equivalent of elbows up would be down in the States, the yahoos, I don't know, whatever, but that we're there's 10 of them and there's one of us when it comes down to the ratio. So this is not a good idea.
Well, and you go 10 of them to one of us, and even that's a bit of a stretch, because we know that there's probably 5 million that shouldn't be here.
Yeah, and just to end it, because you said we're going to do the short one. The other one that happened this week is the crazy woman that went around slapping the kid because the kid was wearing pants that said Trump or something on, and you see this on video. And of course, the cops picked her up. Turns out she's a Canadian illegally in the U.S. And now she's arrested by ICE to be deported. Oh my God, she's going to be deported. We're not special anymore, are we, Bob?
Well, apparently not. And of course, too, it turns out that she has a U.S. husband who has a criminal record, which makes him inadmissible. So those darn ICE people down there are making a family separate.
Yeah. And surprise, surprise, they tried to do GoFundMe or whatever the hell they tried to do, and they apparently no one's giving them any money, and there's not a great deal of sympathy from the American population to this woman.
I'm sorry, I don't have a lot of sympathy for her either.
Well, neither do I. But I mean, now, not to put too fine a point on it, that would be a nothing story if we weren't having these tensions between the top players in this country.
Yeah.
If the PM and the president's office were actually, on some kind of an adult level dealing with the issues, this woman who goes around slapping kids would not be a story just because she's Canadian. It wouldn't even be, it'd be a local story in the local newspaper. It would never go net. But this one now, this bugs Americans, okay? And timing couldn't have been worse or better depending on what side of the fence you're standing on.
Yeah, that's true. But
anyway, that's our weekend special.
Yes, and let us know. I put a new microphone on the system. Let us know if you can actually hear me, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. Don't forget to hit the like button. Buy us a coffee if you can. What else are we missing?
Well, also, I was going to tell you, we're going to try to do a live one of these things on our Substack system in the next couple of weeks. I've got the technical stuff worked out, and we could actually have people talk to us on the side. So, we're going to add a little tech into it. Still 100% human, just you and me, babbling away. But if we could see what the people say on the sidebar, it'd be kind of fun. So it's in the plans, and it's doable. So, we're going to get a little fancier, not really too much fancier, but just a titch.
Boy, that sounds like a big promise. Are you running for politics?
God, no. That'd be as bad as the smell coming in from these forest fires.
Ooh.
All right, Bob, listen, you have a great weekend.
You too.
I'll talk to you soon. And remember, it could be news breaking here at any time.
Well, I keep looking for the flyby news to say something's happening, but I don't know. To me, the whole crux of the matter is going to boil down to the by-election in North Vancouver.
Maybe.
Yeah.
You may be right. Maybe you may have. We'll be watching it.
Yes, we shall.
All right. Well, you take care. Talk to you soon. To our viewers and listeners, adios.
Adios.